I don't believe that Brian Kohberger's case will ever go to trial. Why? Let's get to work. The state of Idaho has declared that they are seeking the death penalty for Brian Kohberger upon his conviction by firing squad in Idaho. When you are defense counsel for an individual who goes from looking at life as a maximum for their crimes to execution, capital punishment as a result of their crimes, your job shifts. And now you have to take a different look at what the state is doing. Like, they're certifying death. I have to assume, and these defense attorneys have to assume, that the state of Idaho is not rolling the dice here, that they have the goods. And they know that because every day they've been pounded with discovery from the state, and they're seeing overwhelming evidence. Now, there's been this talk of, maybe, state wants to know, do you have an alibi defense, Mr. Kohberger? Because if you do, time's up, and we need to have it so we can investigate it. Well, Kohberger says, no, I don't have that. And his attorney is saying, he drives around at night a lot, so, we can't put him in a particular spot. That's not creepy. Here's my point. And this is what happens in a capital punishment case. And this is a process. But there's a phone conversation between defense attorney and the lead prosecutor, and it goes something like this. Madam Prosecutor, how are you? Good. What can I do for you? Listen, if we came to you with a life offer, would you consider it? And the prosecutor has to say this, basically, well, if and when you do that, we will definitely consider it. I'm not guaranteeing you anything, but within a reasonable time period. Okay. As defense counsel, I'm not going to ask what that reasonable time period is right now. The fact that the prosecutor just told me that they will consider a life offer to not go to trial, to trade it for death. Now, here's the process. You just don't go to a defendant and say, hey, if you plead life right now, I'll go back to the state and it's over, you get life. No, it is a process. And sometimes it can take months to start to go over the evidence with the defendant. You're saying, I baby him up. Well, it's not just the process for the defendant, but it's also the process for the families of the victims. It's a process for the victims because the prosecutor has to discuss with them, do you want a trial for this guy? Do you want him, coming into court every day and sitting there as we put on this evidence and give him his opportunity to get off on whatever all this is? Or would you accept that he just goes away for life? No fanfare, nothing, goes to state prison. Now, victims, it's not just one meeting with the prosecutors on that. You just don't sit down and say, what do you want to do? Okay, that's a process too. And sometimes families have to talk to each other and amongst themselves and say, do we want to sit through a trial? If he pleads straight up to life, we'll be done with him. We love a trial, everybody, but this is not for us to decide. This is really outside of our realm. And the victims, the next of kin in this case, in any case, have to be respected, but everybody's got to agree, or everybody's got to come along with the same process. Now, the victims may say, we all want the death penalty. We don't mind the trial. We'll go through that. Prosecutors have to consider it, but the state of Idaho has the final say. We don't know we know that there are talks going on because it's very quiet. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's not going to be a trial in October because Kohberger, if he's convicted, his first appellate issue is, my attorneys in a death penalty case sped this up so fast that they worked too fast. How did they have time to prepare this case? And he'd be right. So this going to the October deadline is strategic in a lot of ways for the defense to speed discovery, but they also don't want to rock the boat. And I'm sure there are some conversations they have to be. As an attorney, you have to go over all options with your client, the defendant, and you have to explain to him you're looking at death if you were convicted. And if the jury does not like your mitigation, meaning that you acted in a cruel. Look, this guy premeditated a home invasion, quadruple homicide. All right, this is a savage act of violence that definitely would qualify on all the aggravators and the death penalty statutes in all the states that still have it, and federally. So they definitely have the right to, under state law, they have the ability, under what their aggravators are in Idaho, to prosecute Kohberger. But at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, this guy, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, but I look at him as being a coward. While he does want attention, he doesn't want attention on his way to the gallows. He You'd rather have his attention in the jail. They can interview him in the next 25 years or whatever, tell his real story from the jail. Fuck him. You have to look at it as defense counsel and saying, we're not going to gamble here. Let's discuss with him. Let's start to put that idea in his head if he wants to plead to life. Now, that plea to life has to go back to the state, and you have to say he's ready to plead to life if you'll accept that in exchange for waiving death in this case. The state will go, thank you, we'll consider it, and you may hear from them in a few days, a week, a month. You don't know, but you will hear from them. So in my mind, I don't see the movement right now that I would see in a case that's ready to go to trial at all. What I'm seeing right here is kind of a quiet period where I think both sides are talking to each other, and they may be positioning here for this type of offer to be made, not right now, but it could be made in the future. Keep an eye on it. Again, this is my theory. It's my theory because I've done these types of cases before, and they're different. You don't roll the dice on a death penalty case because the appellate courts won't let you. They'll kick it right back down again if there are mistakes by defense counsel for pushing this too quickly. So I'll come back with an update on this, but